Well, I guess we just jump right into it. All right, guys, another Furlough Friday for the masses on the eve of Election Day. Today, our special guest is CJ.
Actually, it's not the eve of Election Day.
Huh?
That was like a few days ago.
Well, it's the eve of us finding out. I thought, no,
The results?
like the results. Is that fair? Why are you interrupting
It's
me,
probably
man?
going to go another day or two.
No, it's done. It's a wrap. Biden
Oh, no, they're
gone.
still counting.
Yeah, no, but and then there's gonna be lawsuits and shit. Anyway,
Mhm.
CJ Charlton is with us in the house. Flies for another major airline, who will remain nameless because we like the anonymity and to be able to drink without provocation from our respective companies. Tyler doesn't have to worry about that. He's a man of mystery in his own right, so he doesn't worry. We're also going to have Zach, our resident ginger. Can you say that? Is that derogatory? Yeah, it might be. Our resident freckle-faced friend will be on a little bit later. I think that's equally insulting, but we also go around. So after introduction, we just talk about, kind of what we brought to the table as far as libations. Keeping in mind, this is kind of like a fireside chat. We're here talking shop and shit and seeing how everybody's doing mentally, emotionally, financially, whatever you want to share. So that's kind of the premise around the show. Nothing really scripted. So without further ado, what you drinking, bruh? And it better be something good. If it's Bud Light, I'm pulling the card. All right. Well, at least it's foreign.
At least you're drinking. I've got water.
Oh, man.
I'm on the.
Well, if you had told me it was like this, I would have gotten something very connoisseuristic.
Ty, what happened to you, man? What happened to you, brother?
I'm running on 2 hours of sleep and 5 legs and a king air today. So I'm as soon as this podcast is complete, I will be sleeping.
Do you fit in a king
I
air?
don't. I mean, it's not comfortable.
Which king air? 1900?
No, the 90, the little guy.
No friggin' way. You don't fit in that.
Not well.
I mean, well, what are you, 6'4"? You don't fit in
Doing
that.
what?
Oh my God.
What's that? CJ, what'd you ask?
Doing what?
I fly for a local company here in Tampa, and we just fly all over Florida, day trips, a couple days a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just to keep his currency up. Oh, and I'm drinking Chestnut Farms. Great bottle. Those enthusiasts out there will notice it almost looks like Eagle Rare. And I guess it comes from the same place or something. I don't know. We're about to find out, though. I kind of like it.
You always have variety, BA. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
That's what Callahan always does, too. You never know what Callahan's drinking.
He's always got some good stuff, too, man, from Michigan. I love his selection. He still won't send me a care package, though, so I'm a little upset about that.
You'll be all right.
I actually texted Callahan and Healy today to see if they'd pinch hit for me tonight, just because I'm so smoked.
Serious?
So I'll try to provide some value, maybe my level of senility. I don't know if that's a word, but
yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So you're out of it, huh?
Yeah, I'm way out of it. But
wow.
Yeah. Furlough Friday.
Quick introduction, I guess, with CJ's a buddy of mine from way back. We were in the war together. We used to fly Hercs together back in the day. Not the same unit, but, we met in the desert. What year was that? 03, 4 or something like that?
04.
Yeah. 04? Is that where all this gray that we got came from?
No, that came after we got back, and they told us they wanted us to be responsible adults.
Oh yeah. That didn't work out. That wasn't gonna work out for me. Yeah, I thought they knew when they sent me that it was a one-way gig. Yeah,
when we
we've
both
been
had
buddies
hair
ever since. Huh?
When we both had hair,
right? Well, I got a hat on, so I'm not gonna show them. Nobody knows what's under here. It looks like Tyler's, only slightly
maintaining your PMF profile.
Yeah, let's talk about PMF.
You want to go there? Oh, you want to go there,
Mm-hmm.
huh? You want to? I wanted to talk about men's health, but no, we can go with
No,
the
go talk about men's health. Let's do this.
Well, just a quick plug. We are this is the first show that's into Movember for those that are listening and watching, understanding that it's testicular cancers or men's cancers, various cancers awareness month, as well as mental health. So that's one of the things that's a big struggle for men. We typically don't project our inner selves, and we end up, imploding or kicking dogs, or I don't know. We do stupid things, lash out. So hug your buddies, call your buddies. Let's make Movember happen, I guess. And the rules, I guess, you're supposed to start clean shaven and then grow your mustache throughout the month. And
I did.
tried to, yeah,
I'm 4 days in.
I tried to trim down to my stubble from the first. So I guess I'm starting over. But it looks like I'm almost. That's the only part that's black. Everything else.
Did you leave your flavor saver?
I believe it's called a soul patch, and yes, I did. Wow. Were you talking about the whole mustache as a flavor?
No, I'm talking about.
I'm not familiar with the term.
So you're. I thought you said you shaved, but your flavor saver right here.
Oh, for like when the
alcohol,
when the alcohol drips off my chin, off my lip, and the alcohol goes down into the.
This is a PG rated show, BA.
Wow.
It's whatever flavor you want to save.
Isn't it?
You're going to get to this or meander.
What's that?
You're going to get to this subject or meander.
No,
that's your flavor saver.
I'm not talking about that at all. We can see what happened to your flavor saver. It's tarnished. I don't know what you've been savoring, but
I embrace my gray. I embrace my
as
gray.
As you should, as we all should.
Yep. So I think we're all there.
Yeah, we're getting there for sure. So I guess to get into this PMF crew, how'd that even start, man? You know, here's the thing about aviators, and you specifically, CJ, you just talk a lot of shit. You know, like I think that's where it came from. Like you accuse me of these things. You know, we go way back, so I guess it's like family. I understand. You treat me like, the little brother that you
Brandon
had. Well, actually, do you have a little brother? I don't know.
I do. You're vain. Get over it. You are vain. You're vain. You are concerned about your image.
I wouldn't say
bottom
I'm vain.
line.
I'm just saying I know I got an image, and it's amazing. I don't know.
Okay. All right. You go with that. You go with that.
But that just came up a couple weeks ago. So explain what PMF crew is.
So you're putting this on me. Okay.
Who's the founder? Are one of you guys the founders?
I don't know who the founder is, but Brandon appointed himself as the designated representative of the PMF crew.
I may or may not be the spokesperson and a member.
But he plays one on digital media and social media. So long story short, as long as BA and I have been friends, he has always been a helpless nut, taking care of body and true to the nature of how true friends are, to the point of being a drill instructor. He has always imposed his will upon us about how we need to take care of ourselves, always from a place of love, always correlating it to health issues about men, both physical and mental, emotional, spiritual, all things that we all know and choose to take for granted. So last year, I ended up having knee surgery for a torn meniscus in my knee. And it was the first time I'd ever really become sedentary in my life. And I put on probably about 45, 50 pounds and crested 300. And so once I was on my way back to getting not a clean bill of health, but at least getting the sign off to start working out, I engaged in, for lack of better terms, a lifestyle change. Nothing too crazy, some intermittent fasting, gradually working myself back with 4 days a week of fitness and stuff like that. Well, as it happened, one day I hit a plateau where I was able to finally do 3 miles in under 30 minutes. And I was sharing that with Brandon and another group of guys. And on that group of guys, a few of them were my fraternity brothers. And
Here we
as
go.
you
Always
see,
got to
here
measure
we go.
fraternity.
Yeah, the fraternity as it
That's
is.
all right. We'll edit
So
that out.
do what you must, do what you must. But one of the images and reputations that my fraternity has is that of being pretty boys, being very suave, debonair, ladies' men, however you want to put it.
They're basically
However,
trying to be me, and I just don't need their fraternity.
yeah, no, but we'll let you go with that. We'll just
Man,
let you go with that.
You
But
know they're gonna get me for that one.
yes, oh yes, but we'll save that for another time, another session. But how this all came to that was as we were making comments about it in the midst of all the congratulatories, there was a comment made by Brandon about how you need to step this up if you're really trying to get your game together so you can be like me. To which I said, "Oh, I did not know I was pledging the PMF crew. Gee, what does it take to join the fraternity, the PMF fraternity?" And to which Brandon said, "I don't know, but as the self-appointed representative, I'll get back to you about what the
PMF stands for
Pretty Motherfucker Crew."
I wondered what the P was for. I kind of put the rest together.
Oh,
yeah,
Tyler,
yeah.
you knew exactly what the P was for.
I didn't know what the P was for.
So Brandon's vanity no ends. And
really
but
doesn't.
Instead of hating, I chose to embrace it and go with it, and it took on a life of its own.
Well,
now,
in Furlough Friday 18, we discussed how Brandon coordinates his outfits.
Yeah,
and yes, I did say outfits.
This is true.
Yeah. No, well, see, Brandon doesn't wear outfits, so
Brandon,
he wears gear.
You seem to forget when I bumped into you and we had drinks at the C3 Finger in Newark a few years ago when you had your custom tailored 3-piece ensemble that you had made in Hong Kong. Yes, along with the pork pie hat, suited to what you're wearing now, and the matching. It wasn't an ascot. You chose to wear a scarf, but your outfit was coordinating. It was not gear. It was a coordinating outfit.
Here's the thing:
scarves are becoming a daily thing for BA.
Here's the thing: they had a good deal. I don't know. I mean, how do you pass up a good deal on a?
How do you get a good deal on a custom-made piece of clothing?
I know. Exactly.
What I don't understand is how you pack for a 4 to 7 day trip when you're doing 3-piece suits.
Here's the thing.
Fedoras.
You know what? I got to tell you, there's an art to it.
I can tell you that's not hard. There is an art to it.
There's an art to it. And, that might be a segment on the road when we go on the show, something to discuss and show people. It's all about layers. It's all
presentation,
about
presentation and coordination.
Yeah, all of that.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm really good at it. I'm just, really great.
Right. And I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Brandon is never underdressed.
Here's the thing. You can never be underdressed or overeducated. So you need to get your life right. People.
I do like that. That is a good saying. You can't be overdressed or overeducated. That's I
think that's what I said. Is that what I said? I don't know. Yeah. It's something like that.
I'll buy it.
I've had a few of these.
I mean, I'm probably
it's true. You can always peel off layers of clothing, but you can never throw some on, right? And of course, the education, it just makes sense. Be smart about stuff. Education.
So key. CJ, what's going on with you and Furlough? Are you affected? Are you concerned?
Industry, individually wise, I'm not concerned. I've taken a pay cut, like most of the pilots. I don't know what transpired in your previous podcast with regard to the state of the industry. I took a position that was very counter to a number of my peers from the perspective of, I won't call it insight. We'll just start historical. What I watched was a situation from my perspective where our company in particular was an amalgamation of a number of different factions. And, as history has dictated, the aviation industry as a whole is cyclical. And the defining line is whether or not you get on before the wave crests the top of the mountain or if you're on the backside of the mountain. That's all it
Exactly.
really comes down to. It's got nothing to
Timing.
do with it's timing. And so what I saw was in this window of cyclicalness, my particular group was a deciding factor. And I made some very definitive statements about how I felt. In particular, I explicitly said that, for an individual, I was not going to be affected too much one way or the other. I was never in jeopardy, and I'm not in jeopardy of getting furloughed. I wasn't, is not in jeopardy of losing my seat. But the way I looked at it, I looked back at where the bottom third was, the people that were in jeopardy of getting furloughed, and looked at it from the perspective that they had no affiliation with the previous battles and wars waged by the other two pilot groups prior to coming together. And with that added on, they were also the group that meandered around in the last 10 years when the industry was not hiring and they were stuck at the regionals. So a lot of these individuals were just getting their lives established from the perspective of making the money where they could start their families, build their dream homes, pay off debt as opposed to floating it month to month. And they wanted to keep their jobs. I understood that it was a pay cut for them and it was much deeper than theirs, but my position was if I could support them by helping them stay on the property, even if it was quote unquote, as some other people said, delaying the inevitable, I'd rather delay the inevitable, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen and there's nothing I could do. But I also saw our company trying to do something very different than they had done in the past when it came to financial distress and trying to work with the pilot group. So everyone's entitled to their opinion, just like the elections. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but me, myself, and I'm still in a very good position. As a matter of fact, I'm doing recurrent right now, and I'm quite pleased at where I sit. But if we're a family's job is to take care of family.
So
that's how I looked at it.
It sounds like you're obviously relatively senior at your airline. Was that viewpoint of taking care of the younger generation amongst your segment of seniority? Was that kind of the overwhelming sentiment, or were you a dissenting viewpoint in that?
It was not a dissenting viewpoint, because in the end that TA passed, and that was
the
a
thing
reflection
passed,
of the collective group.
Yeah, I think where he's at, and I'm very close to where he's at as well, that middle group really kind of had empathy, and I think that's where you're going with it. There was a significant amount of empathy. Those guys had nothing to do with what happened, whether it was a merger or whatever. They weren't even
bankruptcies.
Bankers. They were in high school still, probably, when all that was going down.
True.
So,
True.
none of it's their fault. Why should they suffer? So there was a lot of empathy where we were. Now, I can't speak for other people and all, and where our ideas diverged, but I know a lot of the senior guys were like,
well, I can imagine some of the senior guys that had to deal with September 11th, where there was no support. There was not a comparable option being, fuck you guys. I don't know if that was the case. But
and they had they're on their last hurrah. They're on their last hurrah. And that's why I said it was from the perspective of everyone needed to make their own decision. And what I really had heartburn with was the countless numbers of phone calls that I would receive from people both above me and below me that would say, hey, you're going to vote how you want to vote, but this is the reason why you should vote ABC.
Exactly.
and my thing was, you're trying to impose upon me a perspective that is completely unrelated to my current status and position. And if you feel that way, that's on you. But I, as an individual, and a lot of this is also not just reflective of your professional experience, but also reflective of your upbringing, and and this is going to diverge off the path, but it is very relevant. People always want to tie certain positions to very extreme views. You're a capitalist, you're a socialist, you're a communist, when many people don't even really understand what the true nature of it is. And I know I'm diverging from the point, but I'll try and bring it home. I'm a person that grew up living overseas. My parents were diplomats for the United States. We lived in a very detached world. And when we talk about poverty and homelessness and stuff here, it was nothing compared to what I saw growing up in third world countries, coming from a position where you see people on the streets, with nothing to offer, nothing, not a pot to piss in, and you're riding in chauffeured cars and things like that. But one of the things that I remember most was that once a month, my dad's office would load up the Suburbans and the Forerunners with medical supplies, blankets, foods, and stuff like that. And we would trek into the outback, into the barrios or villages where a lot of the third country nationals that work for their office were at. And we spent the weekend with them. It wasn't called community service. It was just called family. And so it taught me a lot about how to embrace your fellow man and be grateful for the things that you have. And my perspective was, yeah, you're telling me I'm going to take a significant 5-figure pay cut, but I still got my job. What about the person who doesn't, who's got a brand new infant or a brand new child that's going to lose? Because this is not like post September 11th where there was flying and job opportunities. Our entire industry is shut down.
Yeah, country to country. It's something.
Yeah, and if what I could do was that little bit, and like some people said, oh, it's only delaying the inevitable. You know what? 6 to 8 months longer of having health insurance and an opportunity to figure out what you're going to do with your life and a paycheck to keep a roof over your people's heads. That's not killing me.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that was obviously that was the overall consensus, because that's how it went down. That's the direction it went.
I would love to
have a new guest.
I would love to have you back, CJ, to have a conversation strictly about that experience growing up, as, in a diplomatic family, like that sounds amazing. I'll bet you have more stories than you can even cover in a couple hours.
And some of them are true.
Some of them are true.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Brandon was ironically amazed about. When someone comes in and they tell a story that's just it's just so crazy that it's unbelievable, and you're just like, yeah, right, whatever. And then one day out the blue, you meet somebody that was from that story and they corroborate it, and you're like,
oh, your pops,
like, for real? Yeah, it's for real. Like, you were really in the middle of 2 attempted coups. You were really literally getting chased down the middle of Main Street at 3:00 in the morning by an entire militia and a mob, and the Marine security guards had to come rescue you from the U.S. Embassy at 3:00 in the morning, and you were 16 and y'all were out drinking at a bar.
Yeah, they make movies about that type of shit.
They do.
He needs to write a script. We need to introduce Zackles over here. Zatch, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. All I'm gonna say is I love CJ already. When we hanging out, where do you live at? And I want to join your crew wherever you're at, because everything you said is spot on. Like, from the airline stuff to the third world country stuff. I love it, man. Preach.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So Zach, first of all, Zach, he was one of our resident freckle-faced friends. We used to fly together. I guess we all flew together at some point. And CJ, we can edit this stuff out just to give you, I've already had 2, just to give you an idea who CJ was. We flew together back in the day in the deserts where we met, and we flew Hercs and all that. So, and then we fly for the same airline. So we go way back. We had youth groups, camps and stuff together and all that. So that's his background.
Oh, you so diminish what we did those 7 years.
I know. Well, I'm just saying, I just want to give him the quick and dirty. We can edit this out and then, come back and talk about
CJ,
that.
You live in the Doe too? You live in Orlando?
No, I live in Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte. Oh, man. Yeah. I got to go up there for training, so we are going to hang out.
That can happen. Right. That will happen. Right.
Yeah, I got to go to Airbus training on the 12th for 12 days, and I'll be in Charlotte for 12 days.
Dope.
Yeah, I'm here doing recurrent on the bus right now. It's a whole new world for me.
Right on.
Cool. All right, so moving forward. Wait, what are you drinking, Zackles?
I am going with the double black Cayman.
Ooh.
The darkest
pirate
the darkest of the barrier, the sweetest of the juice. The double black rum.
You went there.
I'm bringing it on ice because that's what kind of day I'm having today. Is I need a little dark and stormy,
Attaboy. And we talked about Movember a little bit earlier too. So mental health. Talk to your brothers.
Can you grow facial hair?
Oh yeah, can you? I don't think I've ever seen you with facial hair.
I've never seen you with facial hair.
Who?
You.
Me? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's full on red, the guy from Game of Thrones with the big freaking red.
Yeah.
And
love that guy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. in March, you would have seen it. Like when we first got rid of the airplanes, I had a beard that was like 48 days long until I think the April UTA I had to shave for or something like that. Maybe it's May UTA.
You got pictures? We got to see those.
Oh, I'll flash them. Yeah.
So Zach, you have to give CJ and the listeners the Cliff Notes version of your AME experience. But even more interesting is the result of what came of that experience in a rapid succession.
Yeah, so I'll kind of go Machine Gun Kelly on you here, but so I was on orders in August, all of August, helping out the unit. And while I was on orders, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get my skin mapped. I'm going to find out what's going on. I'm a redhead. I got redhead up here. So obviously Florida sun doesn't treat my skin that well. And I go get my skin mapped, and she's like, hey, you got a couple spots here. We're going to do a couple biopsies, blah, blah, blah. They send them away. Long story short, 2 of them come back as squamous cell melanomas, which are like, it's like the most, the very top dermis layer of your skin. The problem is when doctors are talking to you, like real doctors, like dermatologists, they don't break it down for you. They're just like, what we're going to do is we're going to burn that one off with a little cold air. And then we're going to cut that one out over there. And, you'll be good. You'll be back at it. And I was like, okay. I didn't even think 2 things about it. And I never thought that I'm going to this appointment and then they tell me they need a follow-up appointment because after they get after that first appointment, they say, okay, yeah, you have a melanoma in situ, but I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't look it up, and that's my fault. That part is my fault. Or actually they just said melanoma, but then they gave me the paperwork that said a melanoma in situ, which is the very base dermis level. Send me away with my paperwork. They said, come back. We're going to cut it out, stitch you up. We'll send it away, make sure we got it all, blah, blah, blah. That happened on like Monday. I think it was September 22nd. Tuesday, 22nd. And then I had my flight physical on the 24th, which was Thursday, the 24th of September. So 2 days later, and I'm in my flight suit and I go over there because I just got done doing orders or whatever. And I go over to Miami. He checks me out. He's getting ready to send me out the door. And I reached down and I was trying to pull my sock out of my boot. And he saw this big old freaking, because after they cut you, so it was an incision that was probably, 2.5 inches long. To remove the melanoma, they had to carve like a big circle and then sew it back together. So it created this 2-inch long incision. And
like
it
Dr.
was
Pepper Popper.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dude, yeah. Some nasty shit.
My kids love that mess.
What is wrong with people that like that show? That is
shut up. Shut up.
Insane.
Shut up. You like judo and watching people break
like
bones. Be quiet.
So anyway, this guy sees it and he immediately goes, "What is that?" And I was like, "Damn it, I don't want to lie. I'm terrible at this." And I was like, I went to a dermatologist. I had something removed. And it's fine. Like they sewed me up. I'm good to go. And he goes, "Well, what did you have removed?" And I said, "I don't know. They said something about like a melanoma or something like that." And his eyes got like this big. It's like, it's like the guy that's about to get run over in the Austin Powers video. And so he immediately pulls up the AME website and he scrolls down to melanoma and he goes, "It says 0.75 millimeters and that's a lot longer than 0.75 millimeters." And then he immediately turns back to the computer and starts clicking on shit. And he didn't read any of the stuff. So there's a melanoma and then there's a melanoma in situ or something that's less than 0.75 millimeters in depth.
Oh my gosh.
So this guy deferred me to the FAA. First time I've ever been deferred for anything. He walks out of the room, his lady comes in and like scans my card and says, "Get the fuck out of our office. Come see us whenever you've got this all figured out." And I'm like, wow, what just happened here? Like, I have no idea. So I immediately called the union medical people and I'm like, "Hey, can you guys help me out here? Like, I thought this thing was like a quickie, they just cut this thing out. And then, why does this affect my class 1? It's on my leg and it's like super tiny thing. They just like cut it out and stitched it up." And she's like, well, what was it? And I'm like, oh, it's melanoma of some sort. And she's like, oh, well, that could be a big deal, but what kind of melanoma? And I was like, well, I don't know. Typical pilot, you know?
Yeah.
Well, she goes, well, did you take your paperwork to the doctor? And I was like, why? I was like, it's on my leg. He's just checking my eyes and my balls and my heart. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need this dude like combing over my body. And she's like, well, how do you see it? And I told her how, and she's like, oh, that's bad luck. And I said, exactly. So she starts having
enjoy that black.
So she like tells me the world's falling apart. She's like, oh, if you have a melanoma, you got to now get, it could be spread throughout your body, and you're going to have a brain scan, and you can't just go get a brain MRI. You're going to have it prescribed to you by your dermatologist and all this shit. And I'm like, or what? And she's like, or it's an in situ, and then, you know, it's nothing. And I was like, okay.
Jeez.
So I immediately
It's
got
either everything or nothing.
Yeah. So I get on the horn with the dermatologist. And he's like, oh, it's an in situ. He's like, it's on your paperwork. And I was like, okay, what's that mean? He goes, oh, it's just the very top dermis layer. We just freaking nick it out. And it's like before it spreads in your body. It's the best kind of melanoma to catch. You did a great job. And I was like, well, that's not what the freaking medical people at the FAA are telling me. And he's like, well, what do they want? And he's like, they want a brain MRI, and they want to know whether it's spread through my body, into my balls and my head and everywhere else. And he's like, that's stupid. And I was like, well, you're not in charge. So
This is true.
I'm going to need you to prescribe that freaking brain MRI, and I'm going to need you to get on it stat. Because I had like a training date that was like,
oh my God,
4 days down the line. And the lady at the union's like, oh, you're going to have to call in sick, but don't do it right now. Wait until it gets within 72 hours because it's bad form to, you know, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I started going down this path. Long story short, I left this like really strongly worded voicemail because he would not answer the phone and talk to me with this doctor. And I wasn't angry. Like, I wasn't yelling into the phone. I was just like, I can't believe you don't do your homework. Like, when I have to go fly, I have to review all my publications. I have to know all my charts. I have to freaking review a approach before I land. And you can't even look and make sure that the documentation that comes from my original doctor matches what you're about to click in the fucking computer. I'm like, you got to be a fucking moron. And then I was like, wait a minute. I didn't say much. That word. I'm not that mad. Oh yeah. Okay.
He is the guy that signed your medical.
Yeah. And I was like, I must have left like a 7-minute voicemail message. And I remember the freaking nurse calling me back, and she's like, wow. She's like, that's quite the message. She's like, can I get your cell phone number so the doctor can call you? And I was like, that dude can call me anytime he wants, because I need this freaking settled ASAP.
Wow.
And she goes, Zach, I'm really, really, really sorry. But the problem is when he clicks, it's out of his hand. And I was like, that's a shame, because I am crushing him on social media. I went on a podcast that has 30 to 40 listeners. You know, there's ramifications for what this guy just did. And I was like, there's a thing called the Pilot Network. It has a bunch of people that are really angry on there, and you know, they'll send letters to people.
Oh yeah.
And
no question.
So anyway, long story short, he never calls me back because he's a huge this.
Yeah.
And yeah, his name is Joseph Laguna, for those that want to know that. But
it's good to know.
Yeah. So anyway, I start jumping through hoops because now it's out of my hands. Even though it's a melanoma in situ, the union lady's like, I need you to have complete documentation.
Oh my God. What a
So this happens right around October 5th or 6th. So we're rolling up on like the whole next week, like a week and a half later. The doctor comes back and says, hey, I can't write you a letter that you're clear. And I was like, why? And he goes, we don't have good margins. And I was like, what's good margins mean? He goes, well, it's kind of spread a little bit, so I need to cut a bigger hole in your leg. And I was like, oh my God. So I just do the freaking, you know, I can't tell you what I did. You know, I dropped a thing that we all know that starts with M and ends with ill.
Yeah.
And destroyed that training event so that I didn't have to go.
Yeah.
And I was ill.
Of course you were.
Of the mill.
Mentally.
Mill kind. But yeah, so then he comes back and he asks us, I got to cut back into you. And I'm like, when can you do it? And he's like, what are you doing right now? And I was like, yes, let's do it. So I freaking drove over his office. He cut like, it was a hole like this big, and then he cut a hole like this big because he's like, I'm not missing it this time. He's like, I'm going full shotgun effect. I'm blowing a hole in your fucking leg.
Oh my gosh.
And so this dude cuts
insane.
a huge gash out of my leg. He's like, don't worry about it. It's just skin. It'll all grow back together. And I was like, sure, okay.
Sure. Right.
Whatever gets it out of my fucking body. That's all I care about. I'm a results-oriented
Doc.
person. Results-oriented. And so he gets it cut out, and I go to the UTA, and my wife's like, or she didn't say anything to me. Something came in the mail like the next day. This is Thursday. He cuts it out of my leg. Friday, Saturday, I come home from the UTA from drill weekend. There's a letter from the FAA, and I was like, what the fuck is this? This is going to be some bullshit. And I open it up, and it's my goddamn Class 1 license.
Within a week?
Within a week and a half.
No way.
And after everybody told me this was not possible, they were going to sit on it. They had laid off all their civil servants. It was going to take 4 to 8 weeks for them to process this, even if I had all the paperwork. But here's the catch. I never showed anybody at the FAA the paperwork that said it was a melanoma in situ. Nobody ever saw it. The union didn't
were you
have it.
supposed to get was it a mistake then? Like, I don't understand.
So they wrote in their letter that they reviewed my record and made a correction and have issued, that's all they did. It was a very simple statement. But here's the thing where I start going conspiracy theory. Bear with me for 2.
Sure.
So Dr. Laguna lives in Clearwater, works in Clearwater. He is Tom Cruise's AME. He's famous for it. What religion is Tom Cruise part of?
That Scientology thing.
So what kind of network could get this done if somebody is trashing your name on the internet and ruining your little side hustle that you probably make a nice little, unreportable profit off of every year because they make you pay cash?
Do you think he called Tom and Tom's called FAA? Because he's got buddies at the
I don't know
FAA.
if he called Tom, but like my FAA Class 1 was issued by the director of aeromedical medical examiners.
Conspiracy theories, alive and well.
The number one dude wrote my Class 1 and said it was a mistake, and he gave me no explanation of what it was or why it happened, or if they even had documentation to prove that it was the in situ. My union, as soon as I got it, I called him and I said, hey, what's up with this? And she goes, you got a Class 1 in hand, right? And I said, yeah. She goes, no questions asked. Let's shut this thing down.
Wow.
I'm wearing skin tight pants, and if they want inside those pants, they're gonna have to take them off me. I'm wearing my
Zatch and skinny jeans.
Wearing my Green Man outfit.
Oh my God. You're another 6'4" anyway, too. So that's gonna look really weird.
So anyway, all is well that ends well, sure. I'll take it. But I learned so much about the process, and like everybody, I can't wait for the next 3 years. I'm just going to be educating people. Like, hey, have you ever had anything with the medical happen? And I'm gonna be like, get the documentation. You take that documentation with you, fucking learn about whatever they write at you.
Oh man, what a story.
Right. And then another thing. So the girl comes up to me at my very last appointment, and she goes, hey, I need to put you on a registry. And I was like, what do you need? And she's like, I need your social security number. And I was like, no.
No. That's not going to happen.
I was like, you can have my 30-50 for my copay, but you ain't getting a fucking social security. And she's like, well, Florida, anybody that's a cancer survivor has to go down on a registry. And I was like,
you're a cancer survivor officially?
I was like, there's benefits to being a cancer survivor.
Oh man. Oh, come on.
Okay, Lance Armstrong.
Yeah. And then he just throws the social on the table.
So my social security number is out there, right? And I go on a registry, and then I was like, I immediately had regret. And I called her up and I was like, can you take me off the registry? Take me off the registry. Because I was like, I had just read this article that the big healthcare systems are sharing certain parts of your medical record with the military.
Yeah.
And CJ, I don't know if you know this, but I had Bell's palsy. I had 3 back-to-back red eyes.
Wow.
When I was a brand new FO at American flying the Airbus, I was flying Miami to San Fran.
You were just happy to be on property.
Yeah, man. Give me the red eyes. I don't give a fuck. I'm flying through the night. I'm cool. I'm young. I don't care.
Yeah.
I had 3 of them back to back to back. And on the third one, I got Bell's palsy. The whole right side of my face disappeared overnight. And the Air Force, I want to bring that up because the Air Force sat me. The FAA returned me to work immediately. They said, do you have any, can you see? They did the whole check. Can you see? Can you smell? Can you see? Yeah. Okay. You're back to work. The fucking, the military shut me down for 9 months. Yep. They had to make sure everything was gone. Like I had like the littlest like laziness in my eye. And I went in for like my 8-month physical because they had to check me every month. And he's like, I see a little bit in that right eye. And I was like, I don't think that's going away.
Oh
man.
my God.
Like, do you want me to fly or no? Like, anyway, so
that happened to a buddy of mine that had like the same almost kind of same thing. He had like a little skin, whatever, and it came out that it was melanoma or could potentially be, and they medically disqualified him in the military. But meanwhile, he's flying for an airline on the outside. Same situation you're in.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know
Same
what?
thing about educating yourself. There are certain factors and issues when it comes to military flying that are directly related to how we fly, what we fly, and what we that just doesn't coincide with airline flying. It's I mean, just think about the drugs that we're allowed to take versus on the civilian side, versus what we're not allowed to take. And it seems asinine because some of the reasons the military gives are outdated and antiquated, but no one's bothered to address that in terms of the AFIs and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just good with it.
Yeah,
it's ironic you're telling this story because I'm dealing with a young man now who's got his butt in a sling with the FAA, with the AME over some stuff, and at least they dictated you did. This young person
I love it when people laugh.
Decided on his own to subject himself to unrequested testing to disprove something that happened, only for them to find something wrong with
find
him.
Something else.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
And so this is when he chooses to reach out to me. And here's the worst part about it. He didn't reach out to me. I'm cool with a GA pilot who's a recreational guy. He's sharing his business. This commercial pilot, airline pilot at the regionals, is sharing his dilemma with a GA recreational pilot. And the GA recreational pilots network is stronger than the airline pilot. And he calls me, he's like, hey, CJ, I know you do a lot of stuff with helping, young pilots do all sorts of stuff. You think you can talk to my man? And when he gets on the phone with me, mind you, I've been in the business of helping young pilots, find dreams and stuff for, how long have we been doing this, BA? About 15, 16 years, almost 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You reach a point where,
CJ.
you reach a point where you no longer have empathy for people that do stupid, idiotic stuff. And
Facts.
I just proceeded to unload on him and asked him, what in your ever-loving mind possessed you to think that you should submit yourself for volunteering testing that was not requested by your chief pilot's office, your company, or any doctors? I was just like, you're an idiot.
Stop
you're an
thinking.
Idiot.
Don't think. Attaboy.
Neither here nor there. He's in
Darkest Storm is
in
no
sling
joke.
right now. Yeah.
Man, so they grounded him. He's
oh yeah, that dude's out, and of course now he's trying to reach out to ask 50 million people about what to do. And I was like, dude, it's already in the FAA's hands. All you can do is wait for them to come back with a rendering before anybody can go in there and actually do anything on your behalf. So just sit pat.
And that's what I thought I was gonna have to do, CJ, because they were saying because they laid off a lot of their civilian work staff when this COVID hit because budget constraints. All the people that were reviewing these cases that should be open closed cases are not working. So there's all these cases that take a long time for people to figure out, people that are out with like cancer and stuff like that. Well, all the ones that are open and closed cases don't have people working them. So you're just in line with everybody else is what I think. So.
Wow. That's amazing.
So anyway, when you're sitting there 6-7 months into your airline and you've figured out how to snag trips off open time, you figured out how to rock reserve, you got your crash pad, you maybe have a lady friend on the side, you might want to peek at your medical shit. Figure the fucking shit out. Word to the
Sad but true. Sad but true.
Zatch is fired up. I miss you,
think?
brother.
You think?
Man.
I mean, it's just, it happened to me. You know what I mean? Like I should have.
Yeah.
So I
man.
will take this moment to stick a pin in something. You know, the initial premise of this was about talking about mental, physical wellness and stuff like that. And even in this short period of time, one of the things that I wanted to share, and it's great that you shared it, Zach, is one of the things that I personally have been pleased about is the circle of guys, and specifically guys that I keep around me that I call my people. I've been very pleased about the fact that over the years, we've been very open about stuff that men typically don't talk about. And we've been very supportive to each other, talked about a bunch of shit about each other too. Like, dude, you're stupid. What the hell? But at the same time, you know, when you talk about mental wellness and mental health and stuff like that, you know, in my unit, we had a guy that I hired off the pilot boards. A few years later, he was a first lieutenant coming back from the desert. He'd only been home a week and committed suicide. A young pilot that was ultimately going to be an airline guy, and no one understood why. And, you know, and then, you know, things have happened with a lot of other people. And, you know, when you're sitting there talking to them, taking that opportunity to be like, hey, what's going on with you? You know, obviously they're hesitant to open up for self-imposed guilt or ashaminess or stuff like that. But they're ultimately, just like how shocked I was to see how well it was received and other people share their stories about it, you know, because society, especially in what we do, there's really no measure for us to show weakness or vulnerability by the nature of what it is we do. So I've always been pleased about the fact that the circle that I keep, spanning military, civilian, collegiate, GA, commercial, and all that stuff, that everyone has always been willing to be open about what's going on with them. And I've learned a lot. You know, just like we started the podcast before you got on, when I was talking about Brandon, the PMF crew and stuff like that, you know, lost in everything was the fact that Brandon spent a lot of time browbeating me about, dude, take care of your health, yada, yada, yada. And it wasn't just, oh, this is why you should take care of it. You know, he pointed out the fact that, hey, I'm this fit picture of fitness, and I still struggle with things like cholesterol and stuff like that. And he said, so how do you think I feel when I see your fat ass over there, you know, crunching down on cookies and drinking, laying out?
I didn't say it like
anything.
that.
Yes, you did. Yes,
all right,
you
maybe
did.
I did. I don't know.
And then you come back and, you know, all your numbers are straight across the board, rock solid, still 2015, perfect hearing, you know, colon is not enlarged, all this other prostate's not enlarged. He's like, I hate you. Just like Dave Chappelle, I hate you. I don't even know you, and I hate you.
CJ, you know about Brandon's sugar problem, right?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah. Yes, he does.
Give him grief about it all the time. While
I'm just saying, like, that's why Brandon has to watch his shit, because he knows the Cookie Monster is a slippery fucking slope.
He's always on my back, man.
Imagine this is a double tree. Oh wait, let's not imagine this double tree cookie.
Are you staying at the double tree? Are you at the double tree?
Routinely sit in front of Brandon like this.
I love those. That's the only reason why I stay at the double tree, to give out those damn cookies. Good.
So we all know about his we all know about his sugar problem. Do you know about his Abercrombie days?
Oh, here we go. We got to relive this. Really? We got to bring this up? We're talking about men's health. I'm feeling bullied. You need, you know, leave me alone.
You'll get over it. Shut up.
Well, your self-esteem looks pretty high, so we're just like,
because you came out the gate firing all guns, trying to go at me.
You know, here's the thing.
Just if you don't here and take this.
If you don't say you're beautiful, who will? You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Guys, look in the mirror and it's like, you know what? You're beautiful today.
BA, that would be all the groupies that I've come to know. And what's worse about it, it's not even the fact that there's groupies, it's the fact that he's so discerning and dismissive of them. Like, okay. Yeah, I don't need to do that.
Who doesn't have a groupie or two? Come on.
Over 60% of all the men on this planet.
Well, you know what? You know, to your point, CJ, I think we we can be far more open in our career fields and the type of people we are because it's the open cockpit concept. Like we tell each other when we're screwing up, we have to because our lives depend on it. So I think we're more open to taking that kind of scrutiny. We're open to correcting things. Like you go out now. I was just I was up in Detroit and I was visiting a old flight engineer buddy of mine, and he was a stand eval guy. Like this guy was rock solid, and he kind of alluded to the fact that outside of our collective career field, people can't take like honesty on the job.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah, they can't take it. They can't take it. Yeah, doctor. Yeah, they're probably about the only other. So I think we have a unique environment to be able to be open to say, hey, but like you said, even still, same thing happened to me in my squadron with that flight engineer, my co-pilot, and it tore us up because we flew with this guy, we deployed with this guy. How did we not see it? How? Yeah. I mean, we ate, slept, shit, everything with this guy. He comes home. We come home 2 weeks later. That's it. He called
it. Did he have a family?
Called it a wrap.
Did he have a family?
And what was that? I didn't hear you.
I said, did he have a family?
No, he didn't. He was a single guy.
Yeah, well, you're lucky, and he's lucky in that sense because our guy had a wife and 3 or 4 kids.
Oh my gosh!
And he was just a lieutenant. His wife is a stay-at-home mom. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh!
See,
go ahead, Zach.
I find that like I totally agree with what you said, Brandon, and I hate totally agreeing with you, Brandon. So
it happens.
But I feel like we fail in the listening portion sometimes. We're good at talking, like we're all good at talking right now, but like there's hearing and there's listening. Like you hear shit like a sound or like your kids in the middle of the night, but are you listening like to what the guy in the left seat or right seat is saying to you? Are you listening to what your friend? Because I've lost 4 friends to alcohol, and and it was potentially
preventable.
The fifth. Yeah. I'm talking about people in their 30s, early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I wasn't listening, man. Like I was hearing them and I was trying to help them, but I was in the gray area. So I want the good times to keep going.
Sure.
But I want to help you.
Yeah.
The irony about that is it starts at home. Even with our own kids and our own family, I'm guilty of that all the time with my kids. I find myself when I'm supposed to be listening, not coming with a solution, which is what we do. My child tells me, Dad, XYZ is happening. I'm like, oh, well, that's bullshit. Because what you need to do and XYZ, and we're going to do it this way, and you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And you need to learn to suck that up. Are you hurt? Are you injured? Because if you're hurt, you can suck it up. If you're injured, we're taking you to the hospital. We don't have time for the rest of it. So, as I have my low points in my own household with my kids and my wife, it's difficult for me to concede and admit that I really didn't do a good job of listening to them.
Hey,
but
CJ.
as my wife tells me, see, you won't listen to me, but you'll go out and get on an airplane with somebody you don't know, fly 7,000-8,000 miles, and then come back and tell me all their issues, and you never said once about what. I'm like, okay.
Ooh, touche. Wow.
CJ, has your wife ever told you I don't need you to solve my problem?
Yes, multiple times.
Yeah.
And my wife has told me multiple times, you don't know everything.
She just says, I need you to listen. And I go,
fuck.
What does that mean?
Right.
But I don't even know what that means.
No, I mean, like, it's something that she's right on. Like, I should just listen.
Sure.
I don't need to solve her fuck up. She's a grown ass fucking woman. She can solve her problem.
Yeah, but you know what? So what about just go talk to your friend then? And like, that's not me. I'm the type of person that wants to solve things. I need to solve the problem or it eats me up. So if you just need somebody to listen, I'm probably not the guy to come to. What about that? What about that situation?
I would disagree with you.
Yeah.
I would disagree with you based upon my personal relationship with you. It really depends on the nature of your relationship with who you're engaged with.
Right.
True.
Because unfortunately, even though I'm saying it in a positive light, we gauge whether or not we'll just sit and listen, or whether or not we'll be engaged, kind of impartially based upon the level of competency we perceive from the other person, and whether or not it's like, you know what, this is a fairly simple problem with it. This problem has a fairly simple solution. So I can sit here and listen to you pine about it for hours on end and talk about, I don't understand why they treat me this way, or why, when you're like, yeah, just do ABC and let's move on to something else. But when it comes to people, when it comes to our relationships with individuals that are complicated or have demonstrated a propensity for operating in a competent manner or above competency, you find yourself more willing to just to sit and listen subconsciously, because you're sitting there looking at it as an opportunity for you to learn in case that same scenario happens to occur in your life, because you can't envision it happening and you're like, this happened to you?
Yeah.
This could happen to me.
Dude, Brandon, this is the best guest you guys have ever had, man.
Well, you're welcome. And it's probably he's smarter than us, so he's probably gonna be the last time he's on the show. But no, and obviously I'm tongue in cheek on that and playing devil's advocate, or but there is that conviction, but you made a great point. So that's very good.
And he's right. You're operating in the gray. And what you need to do is, as a person, you need to get comfortable with operating in the gray. If you want to be in the cockpit, if you want to deal with flight attendants, if you want to deal with passengers, not everything's written in your manual, but you got to have
none of it is.
You got to have a moral compass that tells you where to go. You got to have a set of standards that tells you where to go. Whatever yours are, you got to have them. You got to figure out.
So do you think those folks that, that they really get bogged down with this mental health stuff, and I'm talking about men, us, is it, you think it's because we don't have something like that to fall back on? We don't have that framework, or we don't know ourselves well enough to be confident?
I
think it's all your upbringing. It's nurture, baby, not nature.
And what you're into. Just think about the situation with professional athletes.
Yeah.
And they're groomed almost out of the womb to have a certain mindset, to do a certain thing. And it's only in the last few years that we've really chosen to take a look at CTE and a number of the other issues that impact them. And it's a double-edged sword, because you can't excuse or forgive them for the very misogynistic, the criminal type things that they do. But at the same time, society encourages and embraces that, and wants them to do that. And in any indication that you don't want to be that persona is viciously attacked by the media. You're punk, you're soft, you're weak, you're a bitch, or you're gay. It doesn't allow for you to be who you are. And the irony about it is, all of us can attest to a time where we were that same very way, even though we view ourselves as very open and open-minded. And I think back to some of the camps we did with some of those kids who were sitting there like,
oh my gosh,
okay, who's gonna tell this kid that he's actually gay? Like, we know it, everyone else around it knows it, he's trying to act like he's not. At what point is someone actually going to have a conversation with him so he can learn to be comfortable with himself?
And it's cool.
And just be who he is.
Exactly.
And sidebar, the funniest thing in the world is watching BA be humane about stuff like that. I'm like, it's like he's sitting there talking to the kid all empathetically, and we're all over the cuddle like, who the fuck is this dude?
Believe it or not, America, I do have a heart.
Hey, because CJ, he used to be either the chief or the assistant chief ball buster in the squadron for probably a good 7-year span in between Jim Martin and his retirement. He would, I mean, Tyler, you were a prime target during that time frame.
Well, here's a perfect example. I was like, hey, Brandon, I need to discuss whatever for GRAC. Do you mind going over these topics with me?
Well, explain what GRAC is, though. So real quick.
Upgrade training
program.
Yep.
Mentoring program.
It's a mentoring program for more senior pilots to junior pilots, and we kind of help them. We used to call it the coloring book.
Get out your coloring book. Shine the shoes.
So
we all have one.
We go to this cubicle, and it's at the other end of the building. It's reservists, past active duty, And the whole time, like there's people around, he's talking shit to me the whole time. He's like, Tyler, you're an idiot. Just demeaning me in every manner possible. You need a bigger flight suit, fat fuck, like whatever it is, just out of control. He closes the door.
Like BA.
Instantaneously closes the door. So, man, what do you want to talk about? And it's like very helpful, very informative. And then, we do that quote unquote lesson for 25, 30 minutes, and we walk back out, open the door, and Brent and I are like buddy, and then he's like just tells the whole world how dumb I am, 30 seconds later. So, but yeah, he's got both sides. I'd like to. That's a gift. It's a gift.
My buddy
that's air crew.
It's air crew. Yeah, you gotta, my buddy, I just learned this too in Detroit. We are very much alike, and his girl, I guess this girl he's dating, she dubbed him. He's telling me this long-winded story, but he's like, what she tells me? She goes, you know what you are? And he's like, what? He's this tough Detroit dude, right? But she
talking
goes,
about Reggie.
No. Yeah, I wish. No, not a Reggie. But yeah, it you know what?
Same thing.
It's in line with him too. But she goes, you're a gold-hearted asshole. And he was sat there for a second. He said he immediately thought of me and texted me. And I'm like, and I get this text. I'm like, what is he talking about? Did he mean like cold-hearted, or did he misspell something? Or is he a heart of gold? Like, is he confused? I'm just thinking, okay, my boy's drunk again. I'll hear about it tomorrow. And then, we end up talking. Huh?
I'm stealing that. Gold-hearted asshole.
Gold-hearted. I might even make shirts. So so shout out to, I'm not going to name her name. She probably won't last anyway. She's probably actually.
There's no need to do that. Let them keep their anonymity.
I don't know her anyway.
Yeah, I don't either. So anyway, I probably can't even remember her name. But yeah, gold-hearted asshole. It's like she goes on to say, you'll give the shirt off your back. You let somebody sleep on your couch for months, but you're not scared to tell people off or tell people about themselves either. So it was pretty interesting, eye-opening for sure.
This is the same person. This is the same person who, when we had that mass gathering in Louisville, Kentucky for the OBAP convention.
Oh yeah.
Brandon, the whole time, I'm not here to be political. I'm just here, to support you, CJ. We get into it, and the whole situation breaks down. And when the fuckery just gets to epic proportion, BA busts out of the blue. Look, fuck all you. I'm not here for this bullshit. We ain't got time for this. You need to check yourself. Yada yada. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got my own enforcer who I didn't even
Dude, because it was so ridiculous, man. I can't believe, we're going at each other.
Done, he was just like, so what are we drinking?
Now that's over, can we get back to the festivities? We're in Louisville for, fuck's sake.
Basically.
Well, it's been about an hour, so I know if anybody has to go, or CJ, you mentioned
that will be me.
I'd just like to say we appreciate you for your first and last time on our show. We appreciate your insight. It was very well received.
I only want to be on when CJ's on.
I was gonna say,
I'd like to be back. I'd like to be back.
Well, that's tough shit.
Next time, maybe we won't be on such a tight time restraint. We can tap into those early stories you were discussing. I want more of that.
Well, I want to hear more about because I think we have a significant part of the OBAP leadership chain here. I want to hear about
might.
That is a very long and sordid story of politics and intrigue.
And for those listening, OBAP stands for organization. Used to stand for Organization for Black Airline Pilots. Now it's Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals.
Nice.
Yeah, if you didn't know that.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to bring space in. It's gonna happen.
We're just
It'll be an interesting conversation though.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the most highly regarded organizations within flying. So I would love to hear more about it. But
used to be, but we'll see.
Used to be.
There is the outsider observing from outside the glass house perspective, and those are us that live within the house and live it every day.
Well, I'm the outsider.
And well, that's a matter of perspective. And that's why it would be a very interesting conversation. You know, I will just say this. One of the things that I remember specifically about OBAP was the coming back from a deployment where, you know, our first time into Afghanistan, you know, and, you know, that was really the first time I'd been shot at, thought my life was going to end or something like that. I get back and there were other lieutenants and young captains from my squadron that were guard babies looking to get a job, you know, and I was like, hey, you need to come down to this convention. Let me introduce you to some people, do some things, whatnot. And it was eye-opening to be down there and have them and invite them in and receive a lot of side comments from my own peers about like, why do you have them here? This is for us. And I was like, wow, you know, I thought we were here to help everybody. This is what we asked them to do with their organizations. Okay.
And to speak frankly and freely, he's talking about these were white pilots.
Yeah. He's talking about bringing everybody in the fold. That's what he wants. He wants to educate them and us. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it was a great opportunity, and I commended him for it. And it was,
you know, but it was one of those rare opportunities where I was having a conversation with fellow officers.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, we've all been through pilot training. I said, you know, I was on a base where there were 500 of us and barely 15 of us at any one point in time were Black. And at no point in time ever, when I took an evaluation, check, ride, test or anything, did the person across from the table look like me. And I never suffered any type of discrimination or any, you know, unfair treatment or anything like that. So when the opportunity is presented to me to help other people who have helped me, why would I do anything other than?
Exactly.
And but you know, I'm telling you all of this, and this gets back into the conversation about why it's such a very sordid thing, because a lot of this goes back to what the experience of OBAP was before this point in time, when they were struggling for acceptance and the indignities and the discrimination that they had to endure. And so it's one of those things like what Tyler and I were talking about earlier about making that decision to want to take care of the younger pilots in our group. It's like, you know, everybody has to conduct themselves based upon their experiences. And it's not always going to mesh with what everyone thinks. And what defines you is your willingness to stand up and be who you are, you know, and it's not always going to ingratiate you with everyone around you. And BA will tell you, I have never given a damn about it. But so I've taken my, you know, my favorite quote in the OBAP thing was, I've been hired and fired in OBAP more times than anybody. So,
fact.
But like, would you guys all say that in the end, whether it's good or bad, you just want to hear the truth? Like in the end, like, even if it's about you.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Like, so my thing is, even if it's the shittiest thing to take on the nose or the chin, just take it, man. Just ask somebody for honest feedback, or like you're talking about, like provide it. Like, whatever forum you're in and you want to let your hair down or talk, don't mask yourself. Just be yourself. Be honest.
It's so much harder. You're absolutely right, but it's so much harder these days not to be that authentic.
I mean, social media is, but I'm talking about
just
like
killed
real
us.
life.
Yeah.
No, but I almost think like Zach's even touching on like, you know, the conversation that we're having about helping, you know, our peers when our wives just want us to listen or whatever. You know, we, you know, the us four, for example, when someone comes to us with a problem, I think we go into that conversation thinking they want honest feedback, you know, so we come in with that in the back of our mind already. And it's, you know, being alpha males, we think that we're going to fix it. And it's almost like we need to be told, hey, I just want you to listen from the beginning, or we're going to automatically come with the solution. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. That you almost need to train people around you. Like, look, if you don't want me to solve anything, you got to tell me ahead of time.
Do this. Double ad link.
That'll be the code.
And on that note, gentlemen, I need to take my leave of you.
It was a pleasure.
All right, brother. Thanks, man.
Be a part of this. Hopefully, I'll be brought back.
Can't wait till round 2.
Thanks for showing
you
up.
guys take it easy.
See you, man.
Take care, brother.
Right.